Hello, in one of my last videos I created industrial decoration asset pack, but while creating these assets I noticed a problem. Various assets created from photo textures taken in different places are different from each other. I need something to blend them together to make them look like they are from the same place. So I thought a dust shader may help here. And I remember watching a video where Ian Hubert creates a dust shader, but I also remembered another similar video on the iMesh channel from another Blender master, and I noticed one thing. The two shaders are completely different. Ian uses ambient occlusion and noise texture as a factor where dust will appear, so we have more dust at intersections and places like creases, holes, gaps, and all of this is a little bit randomized with the noise texture. In another video on the iMesh channel, the shader uses a completely different factor to place dust. Dust appears on the upper parts of the object, but it also depends on the camera angle. If you look from the top, the dust is less visible. So iMesh uses work Z-axis and camera facing effect as a factor. But who is right? I think the answer is both. If we look at how the dust behaves in the real world, everything is correct. We have more dust at the top of the objects than at the bottom. The camera facing effect makes sense. More dust collects in creases, gaps, holes and intersecting areas, and a little variation with noise texture is always good. So the conclusion is simple. For the best dust shader we need to combine all four factors. And that's exactly what this video is about. We will try to make a perfect dust shader. But before we start, one note. You can download the dust shader we create in this video for free at the Gumroad link in the description with video instruction on how to place the dust shader in the default Blender file, so it will always be there for future projects. I created the Gumroad store just for this video, so you can also check out my other tutorials and assets at discounted price plus an additional 20% for first buyers. In addition, I have made the first part of all tutorials free, so you can also find hours of free videos that are not available on my channel, and you can buy tutorial only if you like the first part. A little update from the future. I just found a 4-year-old video where Ian creates a dust shader that only uses Z-axis as a factor. Anyway, in this video we will combine all the factors from these 3 videos into one. We are now inside Blender, and for preview I bring here 3 random objects with same material. This is default Blender material. And if you watch my Patreon video, I just make color overlay. But later I figure out that this is not correct, because we also want to affect this roughness. For example, if we have shiny material here, dust will also be shiny, which is not correct. So we want mixed shaders, not just color overlay. And I will duplicate this with Shift D. Now we can mix these two shaders. And let's say this second shader will be our dust. We can choose some color, for example, something like this. I emphasize this for now. I will bring saturation all to 1 to see this effect more clear. If we now bring this slider more to right, we basically paint each pixel of these 3 objects with same value, which we don't want. We want our dust appear in places where dust usually appear in real world. So we want more dust at the top of this object than at the bottom. We also want that our camera facing affect dust, and we want more dust on these holes, gaps, creases and places where objects intersect, and we want some randomness. So we can start now building this formula here. I will start with separate color. And if we go with Ctrl Shift and skip between red, green and blue, you can see that nothing happened. That's because we need to tell Blender what to use for projection. And we need geometry here. And we want normal here. So now when we go with Ctrl Shift and click here, we can see that this red, green and blue actually correspond with this world axis in Blender. So red is x-axis, green is y-axis and blue is z-axis. So now we have this y-axis, and we actually want blue axis, which is z-axis in Blender. Now I will back this material and let's make more space here. Now I will plug this blue value, so we need the world z-axis, and you can already see that we get something. And for more control, I will go with color ramp. Now I will maybe set this to be spline, because this will be more soft transition. I will click plus here to add one more controller, and now if I move this on left, you can see that we actually add more dust. With this we can control transition, and this black value is what we have on bottom of this object. And I actually want to add some dust also on this bottom part. I want more dust on top, but I also want to add some dust here. So we can control with this slider here. Now we can select these nodes, press S to scale this, and Ctrl J to bring this in frame, and let's now press N and call this world Z. We now have first of 4 formula we want built in this dust shader. So this is world Z, and let's make more space. Now we can continue with ambient occlusion. So ambient occlusion, and I also want color ramp here. And let's preview this. We basically get more dark color on these creases, gaps, holes, and parts which intersect with each other. For example, if you bring this up, you can see this black part here. But actually I want opposite, because white color will add dust and black color will remove dust. So I want to invert this. Let's bring this down. Here is also this distance important, so I will maybe bring this to 0.1 for now, 0.05, and we can now play with this slider. Okay, I will bring this even to 0.03, and we can now play with this slider. So we will get dust more on this white area, and let's now mix this with this world Z. But first I will go with I will back my material here, Ctrl J and AO for ambient occlusion, and to remove this tab, and let's now see how we can mix this. But how do we mix two shaders while keeping only the white value and ignoring the black? Well, we need to think logically here, and that's exactly what the sponsor of this video, Brilliant, helps me with. Brilliant is an interactive online learning platform designed to make STEM subjects engaging and accessible through hands-on problem solving. With thousands of interactive lessons in math, science, programming, data analysis, and AI, Brilliant helps you get smarter every day. Instead of relying on traditional lecture videos, Brilliant uses interactive lessons with real-time feedback, visual explanation, and problem-solving challenges. This approach helps students understand complex concepts more easily. Learning a little every day is one of the most important things you can do. Brilliant is accessible via web browsers and has mobile app for iOS and Android. Brilliant also offers programming courses in Python, the language on which Blender is built. So, if you want to learn how to create your own add-on or script, this is a great place to start. To try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days, you can visit link in the description or scan the QR code you can see on the screen. You will also get 20% of annual premium subscription. Thanks to Brilliant for sponsoring this video. Let's back to creating node group. And let's now see how we can mix this. For this I need mix color. This will be first input and this will be second input. Now if I bring this factor to 1, we basically just take this second input, because we now use mix blending mode. We want screen blending mode. So basically screen, ignore black parts and keep only white parts. If we bring this to right, we basically combine both of these. So this is before and this is after. You can see that we add dust on these small gaps here and holes. Let's now use third formula here, which will be camera facing. So I will make more space, and for this I will use layer weight node, and here we have facing option. I will again go with color ramp. Let's plug this here, not Fresnel facing, and let's preview this. This node take camera look, and that's exactly what we want. So when we look from camera angle, we basically fade this effect. Now we want to scale this, and with Ctrl J we can call this camera facing. Mix color again. So this will be second input, and for this we want to use multiply, because we now want to take these black parts to remove some of this dust, and you can see this effect. So this is before, and this is after. So basically when we look from 90 degrees with our camera, we fade this effect a little. And we can first play with this slider here. I want to also maybe use here B-spline. I don't want a very strong effect here. Let's just keep maybe 0.2 for now, but we can always back to this later. And last formula we want to build here is randomness or noise texture. So I will press S to scale this, bring this up, and now I will use noise texture again with color ramp. Okay, let's now go with mix color again. Let's plug this to B, and now for this I will again use screen blending mode. Let's set this to screen. We can play with these values, and we can also play with this factor to choose how much we want this noise or randomness here. Maybe just a little, and you can always play with this slider here. I also want to keep this very subtle. I said before that we want this dust to be more rough, so we need to bring this all to 1, and this part now will be more rough. We can see this better if we bring this slider more to left. So you can see this part here is very shiny, but this part is rough. It is how this should be in real world. And let's now bring this more to left, because now we can make this as one group. So I will select everything, and I will go with Ctrl G to bring this in one node group. And if you now click here, we can back to our main material, and we can maybe bring this here. And what we want to do now, we want to expose some of these values. We want control from this node group here, and I want to now go inside this node group. And the first thing I want to expose is this color, because I want later change color of this dust. This is not a good color, so I will bring this here, and if we now back here, we can see that we can change this color later. And this color should be same like your environment color. For example, if you have this type of environment, you can always go to object, and let's pick this color here. And now this will blend better with your environment. But I will keep this very saturated so we can emphasize this effect. Next option we want extract here or expose is slider. So we want control how much we want this dust, and we can create this easy. For this we actually want another mix shader here. So first input is our dust shader. Actually second input will be our dust shader, and first input will be our main shader. And if you now plug this here, we basically choose from what we have by default and with what we have now with this dust shader. And now we can just expose this vector, and if we back to our node group, now we can basically choose here how much we want this dust shader. We are now actually done. We can always back here and we can play with all these vectors. For example, let's play with this slider. So with this we actually add more dust on bottom. Let's try add more on top. And we can also play with this ambient occlusion. Basically you can play with all these settings until you are happy with final result. Let's now try, instead of this white color, improve this shader with concrete texture. So I basically import here one random concrete texture which looks like this. All this is in material preview, so let's switch to render preview. I also change color which is closer to soil color. So this is before and this is after. And even if you make this material more shiny, you can see that this part still stays rough. And now I will show you how we can save this in our startup Blender file. So I will rename this to dust shader 2, and now I will save this file. Now I will close this Blender file and I will open completely new Blender file. And the reason I need a new Blender file, because this Blender file here is actually, or this unsaved Blender file is actually our startup Blender file. So this is what we get when we open Blender. And now I will go with File, Append. Now I will find my Blender file in which I created this dust shader, this Blender file, and now I will go to node tree and I will select or append this node tree here. And now we can go with File, Default, and Save Startup File. And we can now close this Blender file. And next time when we open new Blender file, we can always find this node group in shader editor, dust shader 2, and it will be here. And let's just test this quickly. And you can see that this works. Let's now see how this will affect to my industrial decoration asset pack. Now I can just make more space here and search for dust shader 2, and you can see how this affects this object. And let's now do same here. Now you can see that all these three objects looks like they are from same space. For example, if we remove dust from this object, you can see that this object looks a little off. I bring even more objects here so we can now test our dust shader. This is before and this is after. Thanks for watching the video. Check out the Gumroad link in the description to download the dust shader and check out the other assets.